Kimberly is a child who was born at normal weight, about 7 pounds or 3.5 kilograms, which is regarded as average for this part of the world. And for some reason, she was average weight, but she was very thin and very tall as a newborn. Because I remember her foot, gosh, it was almost the size of my finger, and her toes were, I don't know, like matchsticks or something. But the amazing thing, she was a child in good health. No troubles, no childhood illness to talk about. She was very quick with her milestones. I hardly remember her crawling because I saw her sitting at 9 months. Then in like a month or two, she's trying to crawl. And then the next thing, she's on her feet walking. So I hardly remember her really crawling as a child. She was like barely a month or so trying to crawl, and then she's standing and walking.
Hi, my name is Kimberly, and I'm happy to be here. I'd like to think of myself as a fitness enthusiast on this space, and I'm happy to tell my story today.
So she was a very fast child. And then she was an active child. She did swimming in primary school. She did swimming in high school. She did other games. We also had games we played in the home. Some were just small games like jumping on the stairs, running around the house, playing basketball at the back of the house. So I didn't really see anything, a problem, until she got to high school.
So my story is very interesting. It starts at around, I think I was 2013. I must have been like 14 or 15. And we'd have this early morning walks to the chapel in high school. And afterwards I'd come back to class, and for like the first session, I'd really need to take time to write what we're doing in class. So after a while I realized, look, my hands are swelling after this called early morning walks. So after a while, that's when I discovered, okay, this might actually be a problem. So what do? The Kenyan thing, the normal thing would be head to hospital. That's when we discovered that I had rheumatoid arthritis. At that time, it was pretty manageable because I'd only have it in the cold during the early morning walks. And like with the help of gloves and stuff, that was something that was able to be managed. So this went on, I think, throughout high school, on and off. And after a while, it was something very manageable. And even for terms on end, I'd not experienced it, then it would be there. So it was not something that was very consistent.
In high school, she began to have incidences of her fingers swelling. And we thought maybe it's the cold, so we bought gloves. I remember thinking that this swelling that she was having on her finger joints in high school, I kept thinking it's something that will pass. Especially she was in a school away from home. Maybe somebody watching from another part of the world is wondering, yeah, we're in a part of the world where children go to boarding school and they can stay there for 2-3 months before they come home for a holiday. So I thought she would get better when that ended. But now when she came home and she had finished high school, that really didn't stop.
After high school, so Nairobi is much warmer than where we were learning at that time. So Nairobi, I think I experienced a very normal life in Nairobi. I didn't experience any swelling, nothing. I had a pretty normal life for a huge part of my university until I think that was third year. I think just before COVID, or no. When was that? I think third year, 2019, beginning of 2019, or beginning to mid of 2019. So I was studying late as with the course I was doing, which was pretty normal for us, late nights. So one day I'm having this late night at a friend's place and we are working, and then I realized, wait, my ankle is swelling and I haven't been doing anything outrageous. I have just walked to this place, I've been seated all night, we've been working, and then all of a sudden my ankle is swollen. So in the morning I go home and I'm wondering, okay, I hope I sprained it somewhere and I didn't notice. So I decided to monitor that. So after a while, the swelling went down on the ankle and I thought, okay, great. That's, disaster averted. Then after a while, this was just before, I think July. Now I'm having pain in my shoulder blade around this point. And I thought to myself, the first time I had it, I thought to myself, okay, I must have slept badly. And I woke up badly. So, because I could barely rotate my hand and I could barely have any circular or rather rotation movements from this part. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe I might have slept badly. But the pain was there for like a week. And I thought to myself, okay, that's not normal. Then that's when you start thinking about stuff seriously. Or that's when I started thinking about stuff seriously. And it was like, my ankle started, my shoulder. And when I look at them, I really did not do anything strenuous. At that point in my life, I was not even active. So it was not that I sprained myself somewhere, no. So I thought to myself, okay, wait, at some point in my life, I have gotten an arthritis diagnosis. So what did I do? I went to the internet and started looking at, okay, what do the signs and symptoms look like? Because I'd only experienced it on the tips of my fingers in high school, the swelling.
I just thought it's an allergy, maybe because of the cold. Where the school was could get a bit cold in some months, especially in the middle of the year, around June, July. So I never suspected it was a serious illness. I just thought it's allergy or something that will pass.
So that is when I actually went to get a proper diagnosis. And this time they were a bit more thorough because they do a whole genetic testing that goes, I think that takes like 2 weeks to come out. They do a whole blood test. They do a lot of in-depth analysis for them to actually make a diagnosis like that. So I think that was the first time that I actually got an accurate full diagnosis that I was dealing with rheumatoid arthritis. And I got a bonus this time. I got plus another autoimmune diagnosis, which I had no idea about, which is SLE, systemic erythropathic lupus, commonly known as lupus. So it was at this point I discovered what all that pain was for in the ankle and the shoulder. But I was not particularly worried about it because I had gone through the high school phase and I had been able to live a normal life. So even this one, I thought to myself, okay, I'll be able to live a normal life.
But she was a jolly child, very playful, very musical, very artistic, who loved to use her hands. She loved to draw. Then she later embraced music. She loved to play those musical instruments. So when you are getting this diagnosis of arthritis, you're wondering now, she'll not be able to play an instrument again.
Life continued pretty much normal because this time I had medication and regular check-ins with my rheumatologist, and that was pretty normal until February of 2020. So in February of 2020, I'd been having like pain in my wrist, and at this point, we go back to hospital and we've tried a couple of things, with the doctor. They've upped the dose, they've done 1, 2, 3 things, and then now he tells you. I remember I was with my mother at this point, and he told us that we're going to need to do further intervention. So the further intervention included like admission to hospital once a month, upping the dose of the steroids. So we're looking at IV steroids admission, IV steroids, and then there's no proper timeline on like we need to do this for this amount of time. It's more like let's do this and see what happens. It's more of a let's see what happens on the go. So I think that was one of the moments in my life where I felt my life was about to significantly change, because that was going to definitely cause a change in my schedule and how I lived my life. And then, of course, that kind of treatment was definitely going to be expensive. But at the same time, I've always been someone who did a lot of things with my hands. A lot of the strengths and a lot of the things I pride myself in are things that are the work of my hands. I'm very dexterous with my hands. So at this point, I felt like that was, I don't want to say a death diagnosis, but I felt like someone had signed off on that for me. And I thought to myself, I'll never be able to, play my music instrument, journal or as much as I used to, because your right hand is, for a right-handed person, the most important tool. Even like the career you're pursuing, will you be able to work at it as diligently, without the use of your hand? So I think I was pretty sad, yeah. And then, it's COVID, like you guys are just in the house, and that's all I had to think about for a long time.
First of all, I was devastated because this is a young girl in the prime of her beauty who you are being told where her case is, we have no guarantees, but we can try these alternative expensive treatments. Okay, the word expensive wasn't put there, but I did ask the doctor, can you write it for me? So he gave us a number of alternatives, and he actually wrote them on a piece of paper. Because I remember thinking, gosh, I have to go home and explain to her father about this alternative or these options we have left. Because she had been on this treatment, she was getting worse, her parameters are worse. So I was devastated because it wasn't just the expense, it was also the issue of it's progressively getting worse. And sometimes when you are being told, maybe we try this, it is another language of maybe a doctor telling you we are losing hope. And I'm thinking, gosh, a young girl being crippled or whatever bad thing, how is that going to be? And then I remember that morning, we had really waited for the doctor. First of all, it was not the doctor who had first given the diagnosis. Somehow, within lockdown, the hospital changed the doctors. So the doctor who had first seen had given the diagnosis left. So we were now seeing another hospital doctor who was so overworked. And I remember we had been at the hospital by 8 or something, and we waited until almost 11 or midday. So we go in, he looks at the data from the lab, he really looks, then he says, okay, this is where we are, these are our options. So in my mind, I remember thinking, is it that you are too overworked to think outside the box? Or is it you've been told to prescribe expensive treatments? But on the other hand, I was like, are we losing hope? Because now when you get to these alternatives, you are being told you are not sure it will work. At the time, one of them was being mentioned at about 400,000 Kenya shillings, which at the time was about $4,000. And it has no guarantee it will work, and you may have to repeat it every 6 months. So for me, that sounded hopeless. That was my feeling at that moment. And I left the hospital with that piece of paper. I don't know where it is now, because maybe more than 5 years or about 5 years have passed. That was my feel of that moment. Okay, first of all, we were in shock, in like a period of confusion as a family, because you've just received this devastating news of a disease that is progressing to a situation where it looks like it's almost guesswork. It's very expensive. We are wondering, what is it that will sell? And even if you are to sell, you have no guarantee the person will be better. So we are like, are there no other alternatives? And I remember in the conversation with the doctors, the word lupus had come up. And I remembered I used to watch videos about this girl called Lorna Irungu, who has since passed on. May she rest in peace. But I remember what was so encouraging about that time. She was still alive, and she had had this bad lupus, which the doctors even locally didn't know how to treat it. And she had sought treatment abroad, I think in the US, and had come back and even helped her doctors to treat her. And I remember at one point she'd had 3 kidney transplants, and she was up and about. Yes, she'd be down, there are times she'd be down, but she did a lot to raise awareness. So, you know, when you begin clicking on those videos, you start getting other videos on YouTube about the same. So we began to research the disease. And we were like, what else can we try? So that's when we began to think, what else can we do?
When things opened up, because for that period of time, everyone was trying to get through the whole uncertainty of the lockdown and, you know, infections happening around. So when things opened up and I went back to school, that's when I actually started looking into what else can I do. And I think I say God bless the broken road, because that's how I made a few changes into my life that have significantly changed the trajectory of how I live, but also I think they've changed my identity as a person. The first thing that changed was my nutrition. So, hi sweet tooth. that went down the road.
Of course, there was the other issue of, she may not confess it, but my child loves sugar. Yes, where there's cake, where there's, well, she confessed it. She loves sugar. Anything sugary, she's there. And even as a child, anything, she can eat it for breakfast, lunch, and supper. So even as a good mother, I never kept those things in the house. My problem also came when she began earning some money as a university student. She now has enough money to be buying the sugar or those sugary snacks. Because when she was younger, I would buy them, they eat once and they get finished. So they now have to eat food. But her love for sugar was, I think, one of her greatest battles. Maybe we can ask her about it. But I saw her struggle. Because here I'm telling her, eat the kind of food your father eats. And she's thinking, no, I'm not going to eat this. How is it going to go down my throat? It's like I'm almost choking with this kind of food. So I saw that being one of her big struggles, the issue of sugar, because from our research, it was very clear her excessive sugar was contributing to the inflammation that was making the disease worse.
I stopped having anything with processed sugar. So no biscuits, no snacks. And you'd be surprised the amount of things with processed sugar, yeah? Because what I ended up eating was, honey, actual natural honey in my tea. And then even the milk that I had had to be like milk from a cow, or you're looking at what is the least amount of processing a product can go through. So even when you're choosing like unga for ugali, you're looking at, okay, can I have unga that has come straight from the kisiagi? I'm not looking at supermarket unga. when you're looking at rice, you're looking at which rice has gone through the least amount of processing. That's brown rice. When you start looking at your breakfast options, you're looking at, okay, bread is the same as almost rice and that kind of thing. So if it's not whole grain bread, then it just has to be like sweet potatoes in the morning. You know, you're looking at just a diet of whole foods. And to be very honest, that was not interesting, because for a very long time, I used to look at my mom eat those things and I'd go, yuck, can't be me. Let me tell you, the moment you say can never be me, it never's like never before, and it is you. So that was the first thing that I changed. Then the second thing that changed significantly was May 2021, May 17th, I walked into a gym for the first time in my life.
High elbows, chest up. Yes, come on. Short and quick, tighter back. Yes.
And I can say she did the bulk of it because she was already a university student. So she'd say, this is what I have found, this is what I have found. And I remember one of the things that she told us is the issue of training in a gym. So we tried reaching out to gyms, and most of them would hear her condition and say, no, we are not able to take you up. And then the other one who was willing to give it a try, she had a very long waiting list. And then she was on Mombasa Road. And that I can say maybe at the time, logistically, it was very difficult to cross the city. And you know, this needs to be something accessible. So in between, I think she did get a gym where she tried now the alternative workouts, which were normal gym workouts, I would say. But never in my life, because at that time I was not even interested in fitness. I think I was even at my worst fitness level. Did I ever think my child would be in a gym full of sweating men lifting weights? And then we were being told, oh, you have to use which machine to pull, because her wrist, which was the worst part, I think one of her wrists was really affected. We were wondering how she's going to manage. And then we were being told, oh, the machine here is broken down and here. So that was kind of the beginning of our journey to search for alternatives.
And it's very deceptive to be a small person, because for most of my life I've been small. So you think you are fit, or you feel like you're a healthy person because you're small, you know. But I've actually discovered that health is not in the size of the person. So May 17th, 2021, I walked into a gym, and that also significantly changed the trajectory of my life.
We decided we'll support her and try it, because if you don't try the alternative, then we have to take that expensive path that was being proposed. So we supported her in she was a student, so we had to pay for the gym. And even the nutrition, we had to get maybe sometimes like, they'd call it what, Greek yogurt and some other special foods. We supported her by buying those things. But also not just buying, but also it changed the way we ate in the house. So our entire lives in the house changed because it affected how we were cooking. For example, one of the first things to go was to reduce the amount of cooking fat I was putting in food, because now oils are a contributing factor to inflammation. So it meant we also have to eat that boring food, because you can't cook separate food for her. So it meant we have to eat that food. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth periodically, but it also meant that some of the sweet things, we can't bring them home. And just encouraging her, even when we are not watching, to stop eating those things. Yeah, so we supported her in that journey.
I don't think rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, let's start with the rheumatoid arthritis. I don't think people quite understand what it is, because you'd tell someone, "Oh, I have arthritis," and they're looking at you like, "Isn't that a disease for old people?" And then you have to go into like, no. Now this one is the genetic kind. So rheumatoid arthritis, there are two types of arthritis. Osteoarthritis, which is for much older people, comes with the onset of age. And then there's rheumatoid it's just a genetic jackpot, I'd say. And what it does is that it's an autoimmune disease that affects the joints of the body. So your bones mostly, and that translates to how your joints react. SLE, on the other hand, it's also an autoimmune disease, but what it affects is the connective tissue of the body. So connective tissue could be blood, it could be muscle, it could be your organs, because those are part of connective tissue. It could be your skin. And while SLE is not really understood in the medical profession in terms of like what causes it and what part it affects different people, it manifests differently. So in one person, it could be an infection of the blood, where you've had people having to deal with that kind of problem mostly. I think for me, what it has really affected would be the skin. So I can't be in the sun for too long. Actually, it would not be advisable for me to be in the sun, especially hot sun, midday sun. So when I'm in the sun for too long, I look like I've been baked a bit. So my skin turns significantly red for an African, yes. Both of them are, we can say they're from the same family, because they're both autoimmune diseases. And autoimmune means the body is attacking itself. So the white blood cells are attacking the skin, they're attacking the bones. And so there really isn't treatment, but there is management. And management includes reducing the amount of attack. So that means reducing your white blood cells. So what that translates to is a significantly weaker immune system. So when you get a normal cold, or rather what would take someone a week to heal from would take you like 2 weeks, and it would hit hard, like in terms of the symptoms and all that. So it's a tightrope to balance. The triggers for this kind of disease were stress, the weather. We also had some things like sleep, and also nutrition and your activity. So when I can take you through the treatment and management, there are things you could do externally to reduce the amount of inflammation in the body, which affects the disease. The higher the inflammation, the higher the disease manifests. So intrinsically, it can be treated using medication, where you can take your oral tablets and that reduces the inflammation. But there are some things that can be done as a person apart from that. So we have, if your stress is high in the body, that means also adrenaline is high, and adrenaline increases inflammation. So there are certain hormones that you want to reduce significantly in the body. If you don't sleep properly, the body doesn't process out cortisol, the body doesn't process out if there's any adrenaline as fast as it should. So we also have buildup of certain hormones. If the weather is cold, or rather the weather conditions around you are cold, that could affect that externally. So the main goal of treatment and management at this point is to reduce inflammation. So keeping warm, getting enough sleep for hormones to be processed out, that need to be processed out. Then of course, as I mentioned before, if you reduce the amount of stress you have, you're reducing adrenaline, which reduces inflammation. Other ways to reduce inflammation is reducing the amount of inflammation we take into the body. So this is through nutrition. All this talk we hear about anti-inflammatory foods became a reality, and that was a lived reality, where you're looking at a food, you'd think, okay, this is a fruit or this is a vegetable, it is healthy, but you have to look at it deeply. So things like bell peppers, for example, are high in uric acid, which affect or rather increase inflammation in the body. So some things which would be so simple or a no-brainer became things that I had to think about every day in terms of, is this healthy for me at this point? So another way to do this also, or rather to manage the disease, was also through exercise. They say motion is lotion. Exercise is good for your joints because strengthening your muscles helps them carry the joints properly, but also exercise does so much more than that. It helps you also release some of these hormones, or rather filter them out in the body, but it also at the same time, there's something that exercise does. It fixes a lot of things in the body that we are not able to explain, but it just happens. So incorporating a lot of this is what I can say has been a course of treatment and management. Of course, there are times when inflammation was high, significantly higher, and I could not do much about it. For example, July. So you'll find that, okay, yes, I have to be on medication at that time. So, or rather I need to up the dose of medication at that time. For example, work or school is stressful and there's not much you can do about it. You need to stay up longer to finish up something that you need to deliver the next day. So it's a tightrope. The balance is really not something that you can achieve all the time, but it's something that you can always strive to do. So sometimes you'd find that even your diet, you'd be like, you'd really try for like 2-3 months, and then 1 month you lost the plot. So management has also been a back and forth on all of this.
Why do you want to shed light about this disease on your channel?
One, it's not just this disease. I think I want to let people know, however bad the diagnosis is, one, seek a second opinion, seek alternatives, and don't give up. Because actually now, after that doctor had proposed that expensive treatment, we kind of now went underground and looked for the first doctor who had given her the first diagnosis. And we gave a break to this other doctor. And actually, we didn't tell him why we were following him outside the hospital, so that we could see him away from this other doctor, because he had not given such a bad conclusion about the stage of her disease. So what I really want people to know, if you get a diagnosis of a life-limiting condition or a life-threatening condition or a terminal illness, don't be afraid to seek a second opinion, and maybe go back and seek the first opinion, and also do your research, because a doctor sees so many people and everybody is unique. So not all bodies will respond the same way. So if you do your research, you may be able to find something that will help you. So I'm hoping that I'm raising awareness for the parents with a child who has a sickness. Please seek a second opinion, seek an alternative opinion, do your own research. If you're the person who has that disease, do the same. Don't just give up until you've tried all options. Benefit of my audience, please tell us, what is the difference between lupus and arthritis, and what is the thing you have called?
Okay. You know, when you're in an interview and someone goes like, that's a very interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I think the difference is in what it attacks. So for both lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, because there are two types of arthritis: osteoarthritis, which is for the oldies, And then there's the genetic jackpot, which is rheumatoid arthritis. So rheumatoid is an autoimmune disease, same as SLE. So
What is
autoimmune
SLE?
SLE is lupus, with the long name, the long medical name for the doctor. Systemic is lupus, something erythromycin. Yes, that's what SLE is.
They are the lupus.
Yeah,
Okay.
lupus. They're both autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune means the immune system of the body is attacking the body itself. So in arthritis, it's attacking the joints, but or rather the bones. In lupus, it's attacking the connective tissue. Connective tissue is skin, blood, your organs, anything in the body that's connective, like I'd say that's what connective tissue can be easily described as.
So which one do you have?
So I have an overlap of both. It's called an overlap syndrome of RA, rheumatoid arthritis, and SLE.
Okay. Yeah.
Ding! Genetic jackpot number 2.
Genetic jackpot. Are you pointing at me?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both of you from the interviews, what I picked up is you have sweet tooth. You got it from her.
Did you take too much Fanta when you had me?
Yes, I took a lot of Fanta when I was pregnant with you.
Yeah.
Before, I hated Fanta, I hated sugar. But when I was pregnant with her, I wanted to drink those sweet sodas. So are you saying that I'm the one who made you have it? No.
No, not really. I don't think you get to blame your parents or anyone else for any of those things. Like, life just hands you what it hands you. And it could have gone like it could have been another one of my siblings or something, but like, I guess it is what it is. And I've made peace with that. Yeah.
Are you still taking medicine?
I am still taking medicine.
Of course, we can't say the name of the medicine on air. That's something we should know.
Yeah.
But you're still taking medicine.
I'm still taking medicine.
Is the dose the same as when you started?
I think the dose varies. I can't say in terms of it's the same as when I started. The dose varies from depending on what's happening. You know, how is the weather in Nairobi? How is the weather in my life in terms of what's going on? And yeah, there's so many variables to it. I can say it goes up and down depending on what's happening. Yeah.
Maybe growing up, when did you first think something might be wrong that's not normal?
Oh, I think it was the high school one. Yeah, the cold in the chapel and then having to defrost. Okay, I usually say defrost as a joke, but it's like when you wake up in the morning and your mind has not yet really clocked that you've woken up. Now imagine, or rather when I say defrost, it's now imagine you've woken up, but your joints have not really, figured out that you've woken up. So they need time to also wake up. But in this case, the defrosting was like after the chapel walks, and then you go back to class to write. It's like your hands need time to warm up, especially the tips of the fingers. That was the first time I thought, okay, maybe something's off. But that one was not a tea. The real ding bell of something that was off was when, I had the first, my ankle is swollen and then my shoulder is swollen and then I can't move my hand. Yeah, that was the main bell. Yeah. You can put for me a light.
Ding.